Welcome into Steelers Latest, your daily spot for all news and information related to your Pittsburgh Steelers. Remember, like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content to stay up to date with everything Steelers. But let's get rolling. As tragedy strikes early in OTAs on Tuesday, Donald Parham suffered a torn Achilles, likely out for the season. Something you hate to see. Someone we brought in this offseason, hopefully, possibly giving us a couple red zone reps, a couple touchdowns, possibly from someone like Donald Parham to build. Also, great blocker in the run game. Would have been nice to use him this year. Probably not going to see him. Might never see him in Pittsburgh. Depends on if we do keep him next year. But it's sad to see someone's story and so fast before the season even gets going, really. Uh, but what can you do? Now, the Steelers might actually need to be looking for a tight end. I know Jonnu Smith has been rumored for a couple days now. Yesterday, though, Ian Rappaport pretty much shut that one down. So I'm not on board with the Jonnu Smith trade. To me, still makes no sense. Let's talk about a couple other options, though, at tight end in free agency that I would be more inclined to sign that more fits that tight end 3 role than Jonnu Smith. I think Jonnu Smith is a good, solid tight end if you want a starter or a second string guy. I don't think we need anyone like that. I think we got two solid guys with Pat Fryermuth and Darnell Washington. I think they will be phenomenal. While Jonnu, I think he doesn't really fit the scheme too much. I think he's better off in Miami, and he should. I'm pretty sure he's just working a contract down there. But the two options in free agency, first one, a little more expensive, Gerald Everett at about $5 million a year for a year probably. He has been a starter before. He's proven to be a solid starter too with LA for a couple years. LA, 22 to 24 seasons. They were some solid years he put together in LA. I think about 50 receptions, 500 yards both those years with the Chargers. So I think that's a solid option. He didn't really exist much of last year with the Bears, though. He played all 17 games. He was on the team. He was playing the games, but he only had 8 receptions on 13 targets for like 36 yards. So very much a down year for Gerald Everett with the Bears last year. That is a little off-putting. That makes him way cheaper, though. So maybe you could scoop him up and he could do something at wide receiver or at tight end, like 2 or 3. Definitely wide receiver, like receiving tight end too. I think would be a great fit for him. Second option though, more of a career role guy, knows his role, rides the rides the bench a little bit, but when called upon, he can perform. CJ Uzama, formerly of the Eagles and the Bengals, uh, he, like I said, he's put together a solid career as a backup. He's managed to have a couple solid seasons being a backup his whole career. That 2018 season with Cincinnati is one that really stands out. 43 receptions for 439 yards and 3 tutties. I think he's the guy that knows his role, willing to do a role for a team, knows he's not going to get the most snaps on the field, but when he does, he takes advantage of them. I think CJ Uzama, sign him to be tight end 3. I think that would be a solid fit for our Steelers. And maybe, he has a game or two every year, it seems like, where he puts up a couple touchdowns. But let's talk about other receiving options as we have a standout wide receiver at OTA so far. Rowan Wilson has been blowing people away, it seems like, so far at OTAs, and he continues to perform as Calvin Austin reported in his interview that he made a catch over a cornerback in the corner of the end zone on a fade route. That's what we love to hear. We love to hear that our third round draft pick of last year is performing well at OTAs. Now that we are able to see him once again after all of last year, he was hurt, so didn't get much action. No action at all, actually, last year. So now that he's back going, it's good to see him actually performing up to snub. And they didn't say what cornerback it was. Hopefully, it was one of the good ones, so we can really look forward to Roman Wilson putting together a solid year in his second season, basically his rookie year, though. Like I said, injured all of last year. So maybe we don't need another wide receiver. Maybe we don't need to bring someone in. Maybe Roman Wilson's willing to step up and be that outside guy. You never know. That could be the move. Roman Wilson makes more sense to me going outside than Calvin Austin. Calvin Austin is a little smaller than Wilson, and Wilson, as he just showed today, is able to go up and high point the ball. So I like that on the outside. But the Steelers do plan on, or at least looking, teasing that they're bringing in another wide receiver, as Gabe Davis has a scheduled visit tomorrow. What can I say though? One of the guys I talked about a couple weeks back or last week when I talked about possible wide receivers, possible last additions to the team, Gabe Davis is a guy that proved in Buffalo in his first couple seasons in the league that he could be a viable number two option, a very productive number two option. Just remember the 3 touchdown game against Kansas City in the playoffs. He balled out. He had a lot of those games. It felt like one standout game a year. It felt like in Buffalo last year though, big flop in Jacksonville, supposed to be their number one wide receiver. The good news is Jacksonville's eating most of his is going to be paying him most of the year. So you can get someone like Gabe Davis on a cheaper deal, which is always nice and very inclining to a team like the Steelers. And hopefully, if the plan is to bring Gabe Davis in, having him and DK on both outsides, hopefully DK taking most of the attention, Gabe Davis being the clear number two, getting least amount of attention or less attention than DK Metcalf. Hopefully that helps him, propels him to a great bounce back season after a rough year in Jacksonville just with injuries and when he was on the field. It just wasn't best. But in Jacksonville last year, a lot of things weren't the best. Like that team just seemed to collapse in on itself. Maybe a new environment for Gabe Davis would help him bounce back and get his career rejuvenated once again. But this has been Steelers Latest. I've been your host, Cole Denis, and I will see you tomorrow.